All right, everybody. Welcome into the Pugs and Parker Pillow Talk stream, heard every Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. Mostly Monday through Thursday. You know, who knows? Hold on a second. Let me do a couple of things here. It's been a while since we've been here. You know what? Without further ado, let's just bring in James Parker, ladies and gentlemen. There he is. Look at him. Look at him. There he is. All right. What's going on, James?
Man, I was so looking forward to watching some TV with my soulmate, the woman I've chosen to spend the rest of my life with.
All right.
And this is some precious time that we had everything taken care of. The kids were all fed, and we ended up having to stand over my 12-year-old and make him write an essay that he was refusing to write. What happened with the last hour of my life? Just totally flushed down the toilet because
your kid was being a dick. Your kid was just being a dick. That's all, right? At some point, it just became him not knowing how to manage his ego and understanding what battles are to be fought for and what battles are to be conceded. He just didn't want to do it. And his ego was, he's too young to be able to handle it. And you had to pay the price. You had to stand there and waste a good hour of your evening after working hard all day because his little ass decided he was going to be a dick for an hour.
Yeah, but it wasn't so bad because, not to be crude, but like we had already smashed. So, all goals have been accomplished. So now you're just burning my clock here, so I'm not like upset. It's just I had the last hour of my day wasted. And it was already, it's weird how pissy I can be after a loss like last night, where the Cowboys are ahead 14 points in the fourth quarter. And I had already flipped that switch in my head, like we're going to be 7-3 or whatever. Or oh god, and they just gave it up, and when it went into overtime, I'm like, Aaron Rodgers is gonna rape us. This is what he does. This is Aaron Rodgers' worst nightmare.
Hi, Chicago Bear fan. I believe Aaron Rodgers famously said, "I own you" to us, and you know what we did? We went, "You sure do." We're just gonna sit here, and we sure do. We're gonna wait for you to retire. That's our big plan. We're just gonna wait for you to retire. It's
just a horrible feeling to see your entire franchise just turn around, bend over, and back up to him, butt first, basically. And because, is this right? Because this is what I'm recalling, and I hadn't looked this up, and I had the chance to look it up, but I'm not really that responsible. The Cowboys have made 3 playoff runs in like the last 10 years, and Aaron Rodgers knocked them out all of them, right?
I don't know. I really don't know. Because I know that the Cowboys have a very troubling history with the Green Bay Packers, but my Bears have the ultimate trouble with the Green Bay Packers, so I'm not really looking around at who else is,
Dude, when Aaron Rodgers did that comeback and it went into overtime, I shouldn't even watch this. There's only pain. It's like, when Obi-Wan checked the records, see what Anakin did. No, dude, don't even. There's only pain.
So I think I've made it pretty clear that the Dallas Cowboys are a team that I root for. I wouldn't say that I'm a...
They're your team in law. It's the Saints are my team in law. I moved there, and I had a 16-year career on the radio there. I married a woman from there. Yeah. My kids were born there, so they're my team in law. I'm part of the family, but not biological.
I think that's fair. But I have the added issue that the Dallas Cowboys are my 13-year-old son's entire world. They're his sun and his moon. I mean, he's 13 and he's a 13-year-old little football meathead, and the Cowboys are his team. And, yesterday destroyed him. It absolutely destroyed him. And I felt bad for him, but I was trying to cheer him up. Here's what happened. So it went into overtime, and we were watching the game here, but I had to go do the mansplaining show on 97.1 The Freak. So I had to drop him off at Mom's, which is up in the northern suburbs, and then I had to drive from Mom's to the radio studios. So we had to leave. We were on a schedule.
And the ones on Maple? Is that where y'all are at?
The what?
Studios on Maple?
No, over by Galleria, over there at the Spring Valley in the tollway.
Oh, because I heard Reiner mention they were on Maple again. And is he in the same studio?
Yeah.
Okay, so they were just making reference to the old studios. Because remember a long time ago, they used to be over there by the neighborhood?
Yeah, that was the Cumulus Studios, I believe, are still over there on Maple, right there across from Reverchon Park.
Yes, but you're up there by Addison, okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, iHeart is at Spring Valley and the Tollway. So we get in the car, and he's already starting to get really angry. He's simmering. But James, this was what was so cool about it because I got to watch him. He thinks the idea of listening to sports on the radio is so bizarre. He thinks that it's like that's the weirdest thing. What do you mean you're just gonna Dad, you realize this is just like listening to a guy tell you about the game. I go, yeah. And he goes, why would you want that? I go, because you don't always have access to a video screen. To which he's like, in what world do you not always have access to it? And I'm like, well, the 70s, that world, the 1980s and the 1990s. We used to listen to sports on radio all the time. And you know what? This is a nice little throwback moment that you can have with your dad.
How about this? When you're driving a car, Mason, that's when you can't watch it on a.
There you go. Yeah, great example. Perfect example. And that might be the lone argument left saving sports broadcasts being broadcast on the radio, that people who are driving should not be distracted by screens. That's brilliant. So, he doesn't understand the power of, the greats. And by the greats, I mean, anybody it's ever, in this town, Brad Sham. Like, he didn't know who Brad Sham was, and he had never heard the work of a Brad Sham before. And it was overtime, and it was all he had. So he was focused on this stupid old time, radio version of giving him the news of the Cowboys game. And dude, he was totally hooked. Like, I saw this 13-year-old kid just for one split second understand the power of radio. He was hanging on every word, and he was reacting to everything that Sham was saying and everything. And it was really cool. But then ultimately it went really bad when the Cowboys lost on the field goal. And it was, it was so, I had to say to him, I'll tell you how bad it got. I won't embarrass him.
It's, on the radio is a better way to lose. You don't have to have that poor image burned in your mind of the ball going through the uprights. And
yeah. Well, or is it worse because he's very creative? It may have been even worse in his mind than if he had actually seen it. No, I'm not going to embarrass him by saying what he did, but it got to the point where, James, I had to turn to my kid while I was driving and say, hey, if you can't control your emotions, that's fine, but don't go breaking other people's stuff. So that ought to give you an idea of how he was behaving. He was kicking my dashboard and, he was just banging on the door. Oh, he was so upset. And radio did that. That's probably the only time in his life where he will have an emotional experience that is directly tied to the radio. That's it. That's it for him.
I said such horrible things about Aaron Rodgers last night, like in the heat of the moment. Like, people fall in wood chippers every day.
Yeah. Well, that sucks. I mean, look, I know that he's been a problem for the Cowboys in big games, but he's been a problem for 10 years. Twice a year for my team. I mean, the Bears are always the second place team, or at least were for the bulk of the last 10 years. It was always, well, maybe we'll make a wild card because the Packers have won 10 in a row. It's like they were always. But our problem with the Packers, James, is it's twofold, dude. James, it went from Brett Favre for 10 years of doing this to us directly to Aaron Rodgers for 10 years. I mean, the only other people, I don't know who the arch rival of the San Francisco 49ers are, but maybe they had that experience with Joe Montana going to Steve Young. I know that my buddy Emil, who's a Buffalo Bills fan, he lived in horror of Tom Brady being in his same division for the last 15 years. Right? I mean, think about that. You got to play Tom Brady and the Patriots twice a year.
Right. Yeah. And then get through him again in the playoffs to go if you want to make it to the Super Bowl even. Yeah.
Right. Oh, dude, that's what happened to us in 2008 or 9 or something like somewhere back then. Bears swept the Packers in the regular season. The Bears won the division, running away with it. The Packers got the wild card, and the Bears played the Packers in the championship game and lost that year. We took Aaron Rodgers out twice during the regular season, and he beat us in the NFC championship game as a wild card.
I hate that guy.
I know. I hate that guy.
He's always kicking my ass, dude. Certain players you hate playing against them. Good for him. Good for him for being such a nightmare. But wood chipper, just go check him out.
I don't know. Jeff says was it 2010. I don't know, man. It was back most. It might have been 2010 because I think I was still living in Dallas. And I think that that was the year that the Bears made it all the way to the championship game, and then the goddamn Packers as a wild card. You think you could get rid of them when you beat them when you win the division outright, right? And then another team in your division wins the wild card, and then you end up playing them in the championship game, and they beat you. I mean, honestly, I hated Brett Favre, and I still hate Brett Favre, but Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Brett Favre. Aaron Rodgers has been far more destructive to me in my soul over the last 10 years than Brett Favre ever was. And Brett Favre was pretty bad. I didn't think he could get any worse than that.
How many times did Brett Favre knock you out the playoffs?
A whole bunch of times, but it wasn't. I think it hurts worse with Rodgers because we just assumed that after Brett Favre was gone, that there's no way that Rodgers might be good, but there's no way we've dealt with good before.
Mm-hmm.
We had Matthew Stafford in Detroit for a bunch of years. The Vikings have had good quarterback. We can deal with good, but we didn't think Aaron Rodgers was going to be Aaron freaking Rodgers, even better than Brett Favre.
All right.
What's this? What are we sharing?
Story that I don't know. I don't mean to get into a semantic game, but is this the definition of ironic, or is this just sort of par for the course?
All right. Let's see what are we looking at here. What do we you got to control it over on your end. It says here can you center it a little better? We don't get the last sentence. There it is. Attorney who fought Florida helmet laws died in motorcycle crash. Of course, he was not wearing a motorcycle helmet. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that kind of like Abbott? Didn't Abbott make all of his money suing people Abbott made all of his money on tort reform, so you couldn't sue people for stuff, and then he had a tree fall on him and he sued the homeowners for like all kinds of money. This is the thing that lawyers do. Lawyers are a bit, I don't know if you know this, opportunistic. They just kind of bend the law to whatever they're being paid to bend it to.
Well, so the definition of ironic, isn't that like when something unexpected happens? Because I would think it would. Here, let me do the other share screen, and we'll go look at this. This is the semantic game I want to play here. So, isn't it ironic? Literally, is what we call this. All right. So can you pull that one in?
Oh yeah.
All right, I'm gonna put on my thinking glasses, Pugs. Get serious over here. Ironic. Here we go. Characterized constituting irony, given the use of irony. So that's not helpful. I got to look up irony. Contrary to what was expected or intended. Contrary to what was expected or intended. But wouldn't you think someone who runs like their whole bit is to roll around without a motorcycle helmet on? Wouldn't this not be ironic? Because you would, if anything, expect them to die from cracking their skull in a motorcycle accident.
Okay, so it's all right. So what is it? State it again one more time. Think it through. State it one more time. Make it clear.
Okay, so wouldn't it be the opposite of irony if someone who was a motorcycle helmet law activist, meaning you could ride without one, they advocated for people to ride without motorcycle helmets? Isn't it not ironic that they would die cracking their skull in a motorcycle accident?
I had a difficult time following that. I don't know. I think it's all right. So I get the headline. The headline is suggesting that it's ironic that the guy who said you shouldn't have to wear helmets then dies in a motorcycle accident. Yeah. Okay. I think that you're right. I get what you're saying, because if he was an advocate for, he wasn't denying that when your head hits the pavement at 60 miles an hour, you could die. He was denying people being not allowed to take that risk if they so choose, right? Isn't that basically the helmet law argument?
That would be the definition of comedic. But
right. But isn't that the helmet law argument, that it's not that you don't die from not wearing a helmet? It's that we should be allowed to make this choice ourselves, right?
No one has ever made the argument that
you're right. It's not ironic at all. It is not ironic at all that he died not wearing a helmet. Just because he advocated to possibly die that way does not make it ironic that he died that way.
All right, so this is just like some mental worm that got stuck in my head, because when I read that article, I was like, oh, that's ironic. No, wait, that's not. Well, what is that? And so now I'm just asking you. And I think they get it over here. Chris says it's destiny, not irony. You know, and I think that's appropriate because if this person could choose the manner in which they died, they would probably prefer to go out head first in a motorcycle bloop.
It's prophetic, not ironic, says Clovis.
That's a good one too. I like that. You know, you can throw them on the screen by clicking them.
Oh my God. Hi, Chris. That's like that's the best friend to my third or fourth favorite human being on the planet. Without giving away any names, that's just a really old friend that's hanging out in the chat room, and I did not recognize. Oh my God! All right, go ahead. We can get back into what we're talking about. I'm sorry. You were saying
flashback.
Yeah. I mean, it's just sometimes people just pop up in the chat room, and you're like, oh my God.
Okay. So check out Joe. Joe says not ironic, just bad luck. I mean, kind of bad luck, but also like when you're rolling the dice that many times, when it's not bad luck. Like the odds are just kind of actually probable that this idiot, not that you're an idiot, but you're regularly engaging, repeatedly, bombastically engaging in a ridiculously dangerous lifestyle.
It's the same argument that I always make. It is not ironic when a rock climber falls from a cliffside and dies. That's not irony. Climbing a cliffside is dangerous, and you should be expected to have gravity take hold of you at some point. So it would not be curious, ironic, or even slightly interesting should you fall to your death.
Now you're nailing this, but I'm worried about you and the other people that are being exposed to this right now, because you're going to get the same little mental disease that I have, because you're going to go notice now every time the common man misuses the word irony, and you're going to have the urge to want to correct him, and you're just going to have to shut it up. Because no one likes the little smarty pants. No one likes the little guy who got an A in, junior English or whatever. But now you're going to notice it. Like if you get a Ford Taurus, all of a sudden you notice all the Ford Tauruses on the road. This is good. I hope this doesn't haunt you like this has haunted me.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about that. And isn't the Alanis Morissette song ironic? Aren't those all like not truly ironic scenarios?
Like rain on your wedding day. I mean, if your wedding is in the Sahara Desert, maybe.
Right. What would be okay? So isn't it ironic? Like rain on your wedding day.
Yeah.
That's just again. That just seems like bad luck, misfortune. Maybe
yeah.
I don't know.
If you're in Seattle, it's not even ironic. It's expected. Of course, it rained on your wedding day, you idiot. You're in Seattle.
What if you met the person you're marrying?
It would be ironic if you're like in the middle of a sand dune in the Sahara Desert and it rained on your wedding day. That would be, because it's wildly unexpected.
Okay. All right. I don't know. Yeah. How much fun is this? Look at us. We're playing semantic games. What, you got something else for me? Anything else there?
Well, I think it would be ironic if the motorcycle helmet ban activist, whatever, killed somebody else who was wearing a helmet while they were driving like a van. I think that would be ironic.
How so? Because now they've involved an innocent person when their entire argument in the first place was about the individual's choice?
More so because if you expected this person to be in a fatal motorcycle accident, you would expect them to be on the business end of it, not the...
Okay. All right. I got something I wanted to talk about here. Let's get this off the screen. Do I do that or do you do that? I'll do that. There you go. Did you hear about what happened to Jay Leno today? Did you hear about this?
Got in a car wreck and burnt up the left side of his face?
Not in a car wreck, no.
I'm a headlines guy. That's all I got.
You are the king of half news. You are the king of like just a little bit of what's true. No,
I saw a meme about it on Twitter.
Well, here's what's interesting. Okay, so this happened on Saturday. This didn't even happen today, but it broke this afternoon like it was big breaking news. Yeah, it happened Saturday afternoon. Jay Leno was working in his garage. Leno has apparently this really kick-ass cool warehouse where he stores all of his he's got like millions and millions of dollars worth of really badass cars.
What do you think? It was in some sort of dump in Mesquite? Is that what you
right? Yeah, like it wasn't like down off Skid Row in Los Angeles downtown. It's probably somewhere out in the valley, somewhere beautiful, and it's a big warehouse with, you can smell the ocean
or something.
Just gorgeous. So anyway, he was working at his garage and he was working on a car. Apparently he's working on a classic car, and something exploded while his head was like down there. And yeah, side of his face is burnt. Here's the story. This is Variety. It happened on Saturday. It didn't break until this afternoon. And if we're all worried about Jay Leno, we cannot, let's take a beat because Jay Leno's giving interviews. Jay Leno gave quotes for this story to Variety. So he's fine. But apparently he did suffer some pretty serious burns to the left side of his face. Whether or not that's going to be like a permanent thing, like, is he going to look like Fire Marshal Bill now? Is he going to come out and do, stand up? And is it going to be disturbing? Because Jay Leno's a good stand up. Jay Leno can do some stand up comedy now. Don't be sleeping on Jay Leno. There was a time when he was possibly the best working in America. Then he got a little bit soft, a little bit weird with the Tonight Show. But that happens with age. Jay Leno comes out now. He's all like burn victim Jay Leno. That would actually be a fun comedy routine. Like what if you just started appearing on stage, like at the local comedy nights as burn victim Jay Leno, and you just
is it hot here, anybody? Just me.
Yeah. And he's fine, folks. He's fine, and he is wealthier than wealthy. He's doing fine.
After that joke, he better be fine, or we're in trouble.
Jay Leno has suffered serious burns. Well, that didn't start off good. That sentence didn't really
Where's
help.
the erase button? Can I click something?
Jay Leno has suffered serious burns, but is in stable condition following a gasoline fire. The former Tonight Show host confirmed to Variety. He confirmed it himself. Yeah, I'm in stable condition. I burnt my face off. Yeah, I can't do it, Jay Leno. TMZ has reported that Leno was hospitalized on Sunday. Okay, so now this one's saying Sunday. I heard it was Saturday afternoon, but okay. TMZ reported that Leno was hospitalized on Sunday after a fire erupted in his Los Angeles car garage. One of the cars reportedly burst into flames and left Leno with burns on his face. Leno was taken to the Grossman Burn Center for his injuries.
That's a very poor name. Poor
Grossman.
Yeah. Unfortunate. Can someone else please donate money to this wing in the? How about? Oh no. What's your wife's name? Can we just do that? Can it be Tracy? No, that's not.
It's a burn center, and yeah, right. Like maybe the Tucker family can get involved. The Tucker family burn center. Maybe the Grossman. Maybe it can be the Grossman Cardiac Care Center, something like that, right? Maybe Grossman could do pediatric cancer, but it just seems a little bit too on brand for Grossman to be doing.
Burn victim.
Yeah, well, that's not good. Hey, is it any worse than right here in Dallas? We have Deadman Hospital.
Wow. Oh,
Deadman Hospital. Right here. 635, and I don't know, like.
Could there be a worse name for a hospital
than Deadman Hospital? Yeah, Deadman. Chicago's O'Hare Airport is named after a dude who died in a plane crash. that's another.
That actually happens. The one in New Orleans was named after him too. But before it was Louis Armstrong. Whenever you fly to New Orleans, it's MSY, and that's from Moisant Stockyards. And Moisant died in a plane crash on that land.
Look at that. All right. TMZ reported Leno was hospitalized on Sunday after a fire erupted in his Los Angeles garage. One of the cars reportedly burst into flames and left Leno with burns on his face. He was transferred to Grossman Burn Center for his injuries. News of Leno's health was first reported by People magazine. The comedian was scheduled to take part in a Las Vegas financial conference on Sunday, but had to cancel due to a serious medical emergency. Yes, this sounds like a good reason to cancel. Right. Leno's facial burns were not disclosed at the time. His family was not able to provide us very many details, but there was a very serious medical emergency that is preventing Jay from traveling. This is what was in an email to attendees at the conference that he didn't show up to. Over the last several years, Leno has been outspoken about having high cholesterol. News of a serious medical emergency led many fans to believe Leno, who was having health issues related to his wondering if he was having health issues related to his cholesterol. In a video posted in 2019, Leno encouraged his followers to get routine cholesterol checkups. Why did I read that entire? This is not about. He blew his face up in a car engine. This is not about cholesterol. Why is this even included here?
It had a little like butterfly carb, a little fuel spurted out, and just popped him in the face. It happens.
All right. So anyway, he's doing all right. He's talking to people, and he's in stable condition. Oh no, wait a second. What is it? What is his condition? He's in stable condition. Stable condition is they send you home after stay. He's going to be fine. He got some burns because he's a grease monkey.
Sometimes you get burnt in the face. I caught my kid on fire last year. It was hilarious.
Wow. Wow. All right, so there you go. So let's not worry. A lot of people are all worried about Jay Leno. A lot of boys, he a popular guy trending right now on all of the trending devices. Mr. Jay Leno, everybody's worried. Don't be worried, is what I'm telling you. He seems to be fine. He's talking to Variety. He's giving them quotes. All right, you got anything else?
Yeah. Can I go next?
Yeah.
Of course, we got more stuff. We're just pretend like we don't. Tomorrow is a huge milestone in planet Earth.
Ooh, why's that?
The global population is supposed to reach 8 billion people tomorrow.
I know. Actually, isn't it like in an hour from now? I thought it was like 10:30 our time was when that was going to click over. But yeah, 8 billion. Go team. And now be prepared for James to tell us all his plan to cull the population. James?
Oh my God, no! I'm a huge fan of the bigger the population, the better. I am not like one of those. What was the Georgia Guidestones? I'm not one of those dudes.
Okay, good. I agree.
No, it has been my observation that the bigger the population of planet Earth has been, the greater the standard of living for the common man among the population. And here we are. That has been proven again. We're now at 8 billion people, and actual grinding poverty is at an amazingly low level, the lowest level it's ever been in human civilization. Less than 10% of the population now lives on what used to be $1 a day back in the Sally Struthers day, which became the UN measure for grinding poverty, which is now like $2.40 a day. We have about 9% of the planet, which is still far too many living below that. But when you were born, Pugs, like around 1970, when they started measuring it, it was about 90% of the globe lived in grinding poverty. So while some people were projecting calamity and, overpopulation, there's going to be mass starvation and we're going to run out of resources, there wouldn't be enough food and people were going to die, and actually turned out pretty good. Big fan.
8 billion is a lot of people, man. That's a lot of people. And there's still a lot of room. There's a lot of space. Now I know I'm stupid, so none of this probably correlates into actual scientific thinking. But it seems to me like here in America, we could add another 100 million people, no problem. 100 million. We got Montanas, we got Dakotas, we got plenty of Dakotas. We got all kinds of things, all kinds of space. I watch Yellowstone. One dude lives on like 5 states worth of land.
I have the beauty of being able to go back and forth between the two worlds of bug tussle, which is middle of nowhere, and hyper dense populations, because I lived in Dallas, I lived in New Orleans, I spent a lot of time in Houston and New York City, and I can understand, if you stay in New York for 1 week, you'll understand how people can look around and be like, God, we're running out of trees and there's way too many people. But if you right now drive to Alexandria, Louisiana, you will think neither we're running out of room nor we have too few trees. I mean, like, these are just people live in separate worlds, and for the most part, it doesn't make the news. But
just because that's what you think when you drive through there doesn't mean that you have any expertise in thinking that. I can think a lot of things.
The global forest cover has expanded in the last decade. It has stopped shrinking, stabilized, and now has actually grown. There is more forest. There's more rainforest now than there was 10 years ago, globally speaking. There's less hunger. There's less disease. In fact, entire disease has been eradicated. Things are pretty damn awesome.
Am I supposed to just believe you? I don't know. I don't know if the other side is true. I don't know anything about whatever. You say that, go ahead. I don't know that's true. I don't know. I'm sure you heard it somewhere, and I'm sure you're repeating it, or you read it somewhere.
Sure. And I might be wrong, but throw up the links. Let's have the argument, because I enjoy this. There's also been, how you've heard the term peak oil, where there's peak other minerals. We have reached peak aluminum, and not in a bad way, not like we've run out of aluminum. We're never going to run out of aluminum. Most of the Earth's crust, or the most abundant metal in Earth's crust, is aluminum. But we now use less aluminum, globally speaking, even though we've added 2 billion people to the population than we did 20 years ago. We use less aluminum.
Because we recycle? It's got to be because we recycle.
No. I mean, there's like less aluminum use. Okay, so like back when we invented the beverage can, the aluminum can.
Yeah.
We didn't have the precision to make it like we make it now. So it took 8 grams of aluminum to make a Coke can when 100 years ago. Now it takes 3. So now, even though twice as many people are using aluminum cans, we still are using less aluminum than we used to just like a generation or 2 ago. And so we've done that with a few other resources as well. We've reached like peak use.
Chris says, "Do you guys listen to Joe Rogan?" She says, "Sorry, I'm new." No, I don't. I mean, I'm familiar with him. I mean,
I'll listen to an episode if I'm really into the guest. On a
here's how I listen to Joe Rogan. Who's the guest? Who's he? Is he talking to somebody that I want to hear? Because I'll tell you, I think the last time I a couple of years ago, he talked to Dave Chappelle, and it was like one of the greatest interviews. It was just him and Dave Chappelle talking about two guys that agree on just about everything, but come at them in completely different ways. It was just a fascinating conversation between Rogan. So not really. I mean, but I'm also not a Joe Rogan hater, like, because that's kind of a loaded question these days, right? That Chris asks, do you guys, there are a lot of people that would say, well, that says all you need to know about somebody, how they answer that question, right? That's kind of the thing. I mean, I don't listen to Joe Rogan, but that's just because it's not for any, I don't, just not in the habit of doing it,
Yep. Pro Joe Rogan, don't listen to him on a regular basis, but I've listened to a lot of episodes.
Yeah, I think he's great. I advocated for him to everybody at CBS that would listen when Howard Stern left for Sirius XM. They were all, when they moved to David Lee Roth, I was saying, no. I go, you got to, Joe Rogan is the new, and at that point, he was just doing JoeRogan.com. He was just doing the live streams of his stuff, and he was so good. And he used to do our show. I mean, full disclosure, he used to do our show all the time. He was, he's a touring comic, so I know Joe a little bit. And I just always thought that he would have been great at talk radio. And look, I was right in a completely different medium that didn't exist when I was pushing for him. But I mean, don't you think that would have been good? Don't you think that could have been a very interesting thing? Joe Rogan replaces Howard Stern back in 2010 or 2008 or whenever that went down.
Okay, here's the pro and the con. I'll do the con first. What he does is similar to, but not quite the same thing as a morning show, especially in a live setting. With other moving parts, where you can sit there and smoke dope and cuss and stop and let Jamie pull something up on the screen and y'all can fumble through it. It's quite similar. And you're probably right that he would have succeeded had he been the successor. The main pro argument is that, oh, hell yeah, he would have done better than David Lee Roth. Oh my God, yes. Like the choices they actually put out there. That was awful. Yeah, he would have done way better. That would have been a much better choice than what they actually did. Yes.
And he would have probably been a much different style of broadcaster than what he became on his own, with no guardrails and no institution. Radio was an institution. There was a way to do that. Joe Rogan had stepped in for Howard Stern. There would have been a lot of people, consultants, producers, programmers, who would have been giving him crash courses on how to do it. He'd have been put inside guardrails. But because he was able to develop as a broadcast personality or as a spoken word personality, which was what he is, because he was able to develop in the way that he did, with no rules, doing only what worked for him, I think that has a lot to do with why he is the force that he is now. But I do think that even within guardrails of institutional radio of the mid 2000s, I think he would have been a tremendous success. I think that even with that sort of lane that he would have been forced in, he would have been great. Certainly better than David Lee Roth. What do you got there?
All right. So I found a chart. Over the last 2 centuries, this is how the condition of man has improved, even as we have reached what will be tomorrow 8 billion human beings. I'm sorry this only goes to 2015, but the trend line it hasn't divulged wildly. So look, the extreme poverty from 1820, these are numbers from OECD, WHO, all of the regular crap. It's at the bottom of the screen. Look, are you laughing at me? You're not.
I'm laughing because I can't even read it. And now I got to move everything around because you can't see the bottom of the screen because of where our pictures are.
Well, if anybody wants this, I'll send you the JPEG. I went ahead and saved it. But look, extreme poverty from 1820 to now, there was 94 out of 100 people were living in extreme poverty. Now only 10 are living in extreme poverty. Basic education, 17% had a basic education or more. Now 86% have a basic education or more. Illiteracy, only 12% of people were able to read. Now 85% of people are able to read. God, that seems kind of low, doesn't it? We still have 15% of people on planet Earth that can't read. Good God. Here's the best one. Democracy.
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty good. I look around and I think that there's I saw Herschel Walker give a speech today. I'm not sure he knows how to read.
Look, there's functionally literate. In 1820, out of every 100 people alive, only one of them was living in a democracy. Now we have that up to 56.
Well, yeah, there were monarchies. I just finished the season of The Crown where they talked about how up until 50 years ago, like 90% of the world was governed by a monarchy. It's just it's democracy was only what popularized in 1776 with our success. And the French tried to get involved.
Or you could say the ancient Athenians were doing
it. Well, no, you could say that that's when it was conceived, but it didn't receive any widespread copycatting until after we, in 1776, declared our independence and tried to form a democracy. I mean, after that, we had the French, then we had a whole bunch of countries in Europe that tried it, and then we had countries all over. You know what I'm saying? We started it. It's our thing.
But it is better, no?
It is better, yeah, but it's also still relatively new. Whereas monarchies had been around for tens of thousands of years.
Yeah. Well, here's something that's also relatively new. Vaccinations in 1820, 0% of the population had been vaccinated against freaking anything. And now we have 86% of the global population is vaccinated against diphtheria, whooping cough, and tetanus. And another big one, child mortality. In 1820, 43% of all children died before they were 5 years old. Now we've got it down to 4%.
What was the what is the number on internet connectivity in 1820? What was that like?
I think you had AOL, like the dial-up with 50 modem or 28K. Yeah. You had to make that annoying wee sound.
All right. But didn't it split in the 1800s? Like, didn't AOL then split into two? Wasn't there like Confederacy Online? And then there was, Yankee.
That's what CompuServe was. CompuServe was the Confederacy.
That's right.
Of modem surfing, yeah.
I forgot about that. All right, so I got one more I want to throw at you here. James, did you see this from Saturday right here in our very own town of Dallas, Texas?
No. I know what you're going to do.
I'm going to do the Dallas Air Show thing. All right, look, people died here, okay? So if this ain't your thing, that's fine. You can just, go out of here. But this is some amazing video. Let me get the sound down because I don't know. I guess the sound is we don't need the sound.
I kind of like the sound.
You saw this though, right, James?
Yeah. Yeah. Cool, dude. God.
I think pretty much everybody has. Actually, okay. So we'll do sound. All right. So this is a flying fortress. These are both two decommissioned World War II planes. This is a fighter plane over here. I forgot what it's called. This guy is a single-seater, the little plane, single pilot, and the one over here, this has a crew of 5. All 6 people perished here. This occurred in, where is Executive Airport? Do you know, James? It's not Oak Cliff, but it's like south. It's like south of Oak Cliff, Dallas Executive Airport, where they did this air show on Saturday. Unbelievable.
Dios mío. Dios mío.
Okay. Jay, see this right here?
Redo the screen alignment so it puts us on the side.
Oh, wait, we're
the
not.
Block with the little blocks on the side.
Oh, you can't see. Okay.
Yeah. That one, yeah.
Okay. All right, very good. Yeah, actually, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it because it does seem a little bit small. But this thing right here, this is the ejected pilot. This is he hits his parachute and it doesn't. See it right here, how it's starting to deploy?
No!
Yeah. Dios mío! Oh, Dios mío!
All right, so now, that's terrible. But, What are you going to do? Hey, here's what I said this afternoon. It's terrible, but you know what? These guys are not victims, okay? These guys, these were 6 retired former airline and military pilots. This is what they wake up early on a Saturday to do. This is their hobby. This is what they love to do. They go to air shows and they get to fly the fancy old-timey planes. And a lot of these dudes were in their late 60s and early 70s, and, you know, they've lived lives and they're retired. This is their love, their passion, their joy. So look, tragedy, yeah, happened really quick. No suffering, not 20 years of, you know, cancer surgeries and, you know, diminished life. These guys woke up on a Saturday. Their grandparents, you know what I mean? They're old folks. They woke up still doing what they absolutely love to do, and they died in an instant. It could be worse. That's all I'm saying. It could be worse.
Well, one of the things I like to do to compartmentalize this, because it's horrible to just watch 6 of your fellow human beings die in front of your face.
Yeah.
But just think, if they could actually go back and have a remote control and choose the way they died, isn't this what they would choose? It's like the motorcycle helmet activist. You think he was upset about that? I doubt it. And just like, you know, Brad Pitt and, you know, Tristan in Legends of the Falls, you think he was upset that he was killed by a bear? I kind of
well, baby, that's a little different. That's not instantaneous and glorious, and, you know, you're doing what you love. I don't think Tristan in Legends of the Fall loved fighting bears.
Okay, then let me go on record. If I'm like 70 something years old and I got killed by a bear, don't feel bad for me. That's kind of a boss way to go out. How did James die? Did he die cold and alone in his sleep? Did he die like next to a bedpan in a colostomy bag with some machines beeping in the hospital? Or did he get like in a fight with a bear?
Okay, that's again, that's mythical, and, you know, maybe there's some romance to it. Certainly builds for your reputation, your postmortem reputation. You know, that's all good stuff. But no, I mean, so I think the equivalent would be these pilot dudes. The equivalent for me would be if I'm in the middle of like an on-air rant where I'm just really cooking and really feeling it, and then suddenly I have an aneurysm that goes pop and I die. You know, that would be like the equivalent, I would think, how I would prefer to go. Quickly, doing what I love, being passionate, being excited, and then it's just over.
And the audio would be great if you can just like aim and maybe your head hits the microphone on the way down, just like,
oh, chef's kiss.
That's around the world, right? Oh,
yes. And maybe a death gurgle, like an off mic death gurgle, like that, like the last breath escaping.
Yeah, the lungs just empty themselves.
All right. So anyway, don't look. It was a terrible thing, crazy video. But I read the story on these pilots that died today, and I was just like, man, you know what?
Cool dude.
Nobody wants to die, but if we all on some level accept that we're all gonna die, and none of us get to choose when or where or how, this is a pretty good option for these guys. And so,
I mean, some guys got to die slowly after chemo and they didn't get that lump checked out and all their kids hate them or whatever. Some guys died in a fireball doing a loop-de-loop in an airplane.
Yeah, in an old-timey airplane that they thought was just the boss. You know, just like the coolest thing that they'd ever flown. I will say, so let me make a bit of addendum to what I'm talking about here. You may have seen many different videos. There are a whole bunch of different videos from a whole bunch of different angles of that incident. Many of them were taking place from a strip mall parking lot adjacent to the airport where this occurred. Now, I don't think there would be any room for romanticizing this whole thing. Had those planes not the incident occurred, luckily, over the airfield. But 3 seconds before, neither of those planes were over the airfield. They were over the McDonald's. They were over, you know, whatever street that is. Imagine had that
populated area.
Oh my God, people on the ground. We would have been talking about, you know, dozens of people on the ground. It was that's a heavily populated part of Dallas. That's not out in the sticks. That's Oak Cliff. That's Dallas Executive Airport where that was going on. That's next to expressways. That's a big thing. So, I mean, that could have been a truly devastating tragedy if those planes had collided above a road or above the strip mall where all those people were gathered that were so, you know, yes, 6 people died. 6 people died waking up early on a Saturday doing the thing that gets them to wake up early on a Saturday. Oh, you know, older gentlemen, all career pilots. flying old-time decommissioned, probably not all that dependable aircraft. And that's, by the way, what they think happened. 100% the NTSB is basically saying that it was the fighter plane. It was a little plane that encroached upon the flight path of the fortress, and it banked in a way that suggested, at least from the videos, that it was not working right. That old-timey plane was just in that moment not turning right. He was trying to make it turn, and it wouldn't turn, and he just, oh my goodness. But instant and doing what you love. All right, that's all. You got anything else? Got anything to close this out?
Well, I owe you an apology for being a horrible human being, just a total piece of garbage. Because I literally told you, hey, you need to call in. You want me to call in on the show? And you're like, sure. And then I fell asleep.
Oh yeah. Oh, don't worry about that. We did. That was right.
And then Dale had texted me while I was asleep. Hey, does Pug still need me to call in the show? And so I didn't answer him because I was asleep. I didn't expect to fall asleep. Like my wife said, I'm going to go to bed early. So I lay down next to her and I just put my phone on and I was going to see, because a lot of times you get a flood of calls at the beginning and I don't want to call if there's a ton of other people calling. So I was just going to wait for it to die down for a second and I fell asleep.
That's all right. I appreciate it. I didn't blow up your phone. I wasn't looking for you. I do appreciate you being willing to participate, but we didn't need you. We didn't take all that many. It was a weird night. We did a lot of kind of cross conversation. Anyway. Oh, and this week we're screwed up again. This week we're on Saturday. We're talking about the excuse me, mansplaining with myself and Dr. Robert Schwartz, Saturdays and Sundays on 97.1 The Freak here in Dallas. Saturday's show is going to be on as normal, but Sunday's show is not going to be on, but they're going to try us out on Monday of the following week. So we're going to be on Monday night of the following week.
No, time you can't do. We have to do Pugs and Parker.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. That's right. That's how little I think of this little nightly thing that we do. Yeah, so there's not going to be a Pugs and Parker next Monday. I got to do that. That's yeah, I know. That's all right. But you'll be on with us. Hopefully you'll come on the mansplaining show with us.
Yeah. I'm a total attention whore and I'll do anything for attention.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else? We actually have 10 more minutes here. I got a couple more things that we could talk about really quickly.
No, go ahead.
Are you a fan of Yellowstone? Have we talked about this? Do you watch Yellowstone?
I watched the first episode because my dad wouldn't get off my ass for 2 years.
Oh, really? Your dad's down. Old Herb's down with Yellowstone, huh?
He's so disappointed because he watched it all the way through and he's like, hey, did you get caught up? Did you watch it yet? Because he wants to talk to me about it so bad. And then he's like, hey, did you watch 1883? I'm like, why would I watch that? I hadn't seen Yellowstone. He's like, well, this happened before Yellowstone. I'm like, but it's like, I know it's not.
No, he's right. You actually could watch you should watch 1883 first. You should watch it first because it does. What's that?
Should you watch it? Because that's not how it works for Star Wars.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't, but you could.
Right. If you wanted to get the actual narrative of Star Wars, you wouldn't start with episode 1. You would still start with episode 4.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, Yellowstone came back to the Tombstone. What is it? Paramount Tombstone. Paramount Tombstone. Same thing. Paramount Network. Shattering the records, James. It came back on Sunday night. Yellowstone wrangled up a ratings record for its 5th season premiere.
They beat Pugs and Parker?
It did. The Paramount Network drama delivered a cumulative viewership of 12.1 million. That's live plus same-day viewers. Here's what's so adorable about that. That used to be a failed show in the 1980s. If only 12.1 million people tuned into your show, you weren't going to be on too long because there were only 3 networks, and that means there are only 3 shows at a time, and there was like 200 million people watching TV. So 12.1 million, not bad, but yeah, I mean, actually a record for this new era. According to Samba TV, the ratings make Yellowstone the top scripted series premiere of 2022. The series was also up double digits in all demos, including growth. Grew 52%. Here's the deal with Yellowstone. Okay, so I came to Yellowstone late, James, and I'm a big Yellowstone fan. I love this show.
So you're totally caught up?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
no, it's I haven't watched the new season debut yet. What I will do is I will wait for there to be about 7 or 8 episodes of the new season, and then I'll binge over a weekend.
that's
I
my
don't
move.
What's that?
That's my move. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't watch something when it comes out. What the hell?
I'm I cannot stand the idea of being held hostage by when they say I can watch another episode. You know what I mean? Like, what if an episode ends and it's a cliffhanger and it's really good and I'm like, "Oh, man," and then I gotta wait a week? Like,
The
get out of here.
You're a little more elastic than that because it's like, all right, you can watch up to this point. Now you got to wait a week, and then what? I get to watch the rest of it. No, you only get to watch one more hour of it. You
Yeah,
don't have to
one
do that.
more hour, right. It's like, look, I put up with that nonsense with the Dukes of Hazzard. Every episode of the Dukes of Hazzard always ended with, "Well, looks like the boys got themselves in a pickle." Right? And there was like always a cliffhanger. And I would happily wait because I was 10 and technology said this is how we do it now. Well, we don't do it like that no more. I ain't got to sit there and wait a week to find out if the Duke boys got out of their pickle. I can just roll right into the next episode. So that's what I'm going to do with it. So I'm all caught up. Yeah, I've watched 1883, all caught up on that, all caught up on Yellowstone. But I came to Yellowstone, James, late, like a lot of people, because Yellowstone, I guess, had been on for a year or two before I ever finally started watching it. And I don't even know how I finally started watching it. But man, I got hooked right away. I think it's a great show. I really, really like it.
So one thing I noticed in the first episode, it is this new genre of shows that started with The Sopranos. And even though I haven't seen it, this is one of those shows that's going to be defined by these landmarks in the storyline where certain important people get killed. And it was weird because Sopranos really did start something. Before that, major characters didn't die in shows. That wasn't a thing. But now you have like Sons of Anarchy and Breaking Bad and now Yellowstone and Game of Thrones. And all of these shows are echoing what I think was first done by Sopranos.
Well, here's what I think you're talking about. I think you're talking about the anti-hero as series lead.
I mean, is there a name for what I'm talking about? That this genre of what I'm, because clearly
The anti-hero genre, yes, where you find yourself the center of attention of the series that gets your heart and your emotions is somebody that is complicated, that you're not really happy about rooting. What's that?
that doesn't deserve your praise.
Right, exactly. Tony Soprano. Those people were pieces of shit. And yet somehow we rooted for that family. We wanted them to be successful pieces of shit. Well, that's also Yellowstone is very much like that. The Duttons, the Dutton family which is run by Kevin Costner. They are pieces of shit. There is absolutely nothing morally sound about these people. They are duplicitous. They are corrupt. They are murderous. They've murdered hundreds of people. They actually have a cliff where they just throw people off it when they, no longer find them useful to them. So they are really bad people. But
spoiler alert, Pugs. God.
Well, they're just.
They were nice.
Are you watching Succession? You were watching Succession, right?
I did watch Succession.
Okay.
That's I don't think that's the same style of
same
show.
thing. They're the exact same people. They just live in different places. Well, the people in Succession, I think, are far more successful. Like that's Rue Murdoch. The people in I think the people in Yellowstone, that family might be worth like maybe 1 or 2 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 billion. Whereas the family in Succession is probably worth like 150 billion. They're like the Murdochs. They own. So, but one is New York and one is in Yellowstone. They're both incredibly powerful, influential families in their universe. And even the family is the same. Like you've got this head patriarch, Kevin Costner in Yellowstone and Brian Cox in Succession, who is, has done some things in his life to get where he is. He didn't get there clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Done some shit. And then they have the exact same kids. They have an oldest son who's kind of a screw up, who dad doesn't trust, who should be the heir apparent. Both Succession has that and Yellowstone has that. Yeah. Then they've got a daughter. And it's a red-haired daughter in both cases. You've got Shiv in Succession, who is competent but doesn't have her father's trust because, well, she's a girl. And then with Yellowstone, you have, I can't remember her name, but she's awesome. You have the redheaded daughter, who is the most competent of all the children. But of course, Kevin Costner doesn't trust her because, well, she's a girl. And then you've got the youngest son who is, sort of doesn't know his place. Anyway, they're very similar shows. They're just set in two completely different places. And they both center on families that, there's not a whole lot of good to say about these families. These are not nice people. These are people who got to where they are by doing very questionable things, at least from a grounded moral standpoint. But that's why I love both shows. I think Succession is the best show on TV. I don't go that far with Yellowstone, but Yellowstone is certainly one of the 5 best shows on TV.
See, now I think Succession fits into that genre, but it's sort of like the clean comedy version where we think, Dave Chappelle's really funny and Seinfeld's really funny too, but kind of in this other way. So there's just the violence isn't there in Succession. Yes, these are horrible people who do not deserve your admiration, but
Great
they're not
point.
murderers.
The violence is, well, the
They're indifferent.
murder, they're indifferent to the murder that possibly their decisions cause. Whereas the Yellowstone family, they actually do the murdering. They actually throw people off the cliffside. But a difference between 150 billion and 1 billion, right? Maybe at 1 billion, you still do your own murdering.
And do a murder cliff. Yeah.
And at 150 billion, you got people that can handle that for you.
Yeah. So Tony Soprano's worth about 20 million. Quite a bit of murder. Not a cliff level, but yeah.
A lot of murder that he does by himself. It's like he's got to do that. He's got to send people who work for him to dig the graves. The family in Succession doesn't have to do that. Bobby Axelrod on Billions, he didn't have to do that. He's probably responsible for a lot of people being murdered. Oh, by the way, that's another thing that's really interesting. Are you familiar with the show Billions?
No, I mean, I know it exists, but I haven't watched it.
Okay. So Billions is about a hedge fund guy and the corruption, and he's sketchy and all that. This FTX, this Bitcoin guy, or this guy that collapsed his company, and now like the whole industry is like losing their shit over it or whatever.
It's it's a big one. Apparently,
this guy is like being called the real life Bobby Axelrod. So if you are familiar with the show Billions, which is such a great show, if you're familiar with the show Billions, this is the story of this FTX guy. Is somebody wrote something today? Some fairly important blue check journalist wrote all of the correlations between the TV show Billions and this guy, and it's like, oh my god, that's crazy. It's like this dude in real life watched Billions and went, I'm going to do that. That sounds like fun. I'm going to do that too. Yeah, so there you are. All right, we're out of time. Want to tell people about your Florida Stories podcast?
Yeah, so there's a podcast. It's called Floor Stories, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's all the dumbest, craziest, most entertaining stories from Florida. Also, Thursday and Friday, I'm filling in again on KPRC 950 AM in Houston from 2 to 4. So check me out there, or don't. I get paid the same. So,
there you go. That's what you get from him.
All right, later.
There he goes. That's James Parker. He joins me every night, Monday through Thursday, for Pugs and Parker proudly present Pillow Talk on the Radio Misfits podcast platform. I do another stream every day at noon, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday. We call that high noon, and what that is topics, current events. If it's trending, if people are talking about it, I'll give it to you. I'll tell you exactly why it's trending. I'll give you my hot take and maybe read a couple things from the chat room. I don't do that. I know, but I might start. Sounds like something that's in me. My voice is going. It's going. It was so good all day. Oh, this weather. I'm in this weird place right now where I don't know what I'm going to watch tonight. I'm going to go in the bedroom, I'm going to climb in bed, I'm going to get under the covers, I'm going to put something on the TV. I don't know what that's going to be. Might it be Gangs of New York? Maybe. Might it be, you know what it might be? You know what I think I might watch? Oh, okay. So I just gave that whole thing to James about how I let shows build up. I won't just watch one episode and then be held hostage. I like to let a bunch of shows pile up and then I'll watch them. I'll binge them at my own leisure. I know I just gave that whole spiel. But there's a new show also from Taylor Sheridan, who is the guy behind Yellowstone in 1883. Taylor Sheridan, he's like now the hottest guy in TV all of a sudden. He's got another new show that I guess debuted on Paramount after or maybe before Yellowstone. I don't know. It's the new Stallone show, King of Tulsa. I might watch that. Now, the exception to the rule of I don't let them hold me hostage. The exception to that is if it's a series debut. If it's just the first episode of a series I have never seen before, then I will watch that standalone. And if I like it, then I'll go, all right, I'm going to let a whole bunch more of those build up and then I'll watch them. So that's the only Caveat to my rule. But if I'm familiar with the show, like if it's the newest season of one of my favorite shows, then yeah, I won't watch it week to week. I'll just let it build up, and then I'll just watch it, over the course of a weekend. Unless, of course, it's a new show, which is what I just said. Oh my God. From the comfort nest. All right, I got nothing else. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow for High Noon right here on the Radio Misfits podcast platform. Is another day. The best is yet to come. I have found a different way, so baffling to some. I can smile a little now, things are going good. I always had to be on guard, that is understood. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest.